So what I want to do now is to take a look at this sample that we have in front of us and see how we can adjust the properties of an object's material from script over time. What I have here is a project in which I've created this plain object, and it has been assigned a material of this preacher man here. And you can see that every 2 seconds, in fact, the material changes. Now it changes from its default color and then is multiplied by a red color. If I select the plain object here in the scene, you can see in the preview panel that it also changes to red. And if I scroll down, you can see from the material properties here in the main color, you can see that it's switching from the white material, from the white color to the red color. Every 2 seconds it alternates. So what we're going to be looking at here is how we can create regular behavior every so often and how we can adjust the properties of a material in script. So let's get started to see how we can recreate this project using C#. So off screen I've gone ahead and cleared out this project so that now when I press the play button on the toolbar, you will see that this texture no longer animates, the color is not changing. And we're going to be implementing that behavior now using a C# class. So I'm going to press the stop button on the toolbar here and move over to the scripts folder in the project panel and create a new class. So I will right click with the mouse and choose create and C# script from the menu here. And I'm going to name this class change material, like so, and you can see in the object inspector that it auto generates some code for me. So I'm going to double click on this file to open that in MonoDevelop, and here we have this MonoDevelop file. Again, it descends, notice, from Mono Behavior where we are coding a component, and we won't need the update function at all. So I'm going to highlight that function and remove it from the class completely. And the first thing I'm going to do is to code a new function that can change the color of the material that is associated with the object. So I'm going to start the function by choosing public void switch material color. I'm going to leave the argument list completely empty here. And the first thing that we need to do to change the material color is we need to access the mesh renderer component of the object. You will see if I minimize MonoDevelop and I select the plain object in the hierarchy panel here, you will see in the object inspector that this object has a mesh renderer component. If I disable it, the mesh is suddenly invisible. This is because this component is responsible for drawing the mesh to the screen, including the materials here that is associated with it. So this is responsible for rendering the mesh. So I'm going to enable this again, and we need to get a reference to this mesh renderer component so that we can access the materials property. So I'm going to return back to MonoDevelop and begin to create a mesh renderer variable here, which I'm just going to call mesh renderer, and we're going to get the component on the object which is of type mesh renderer. You can see that from the code completion dialog. So I'm going to get the mesh renderer component, and then all I want to do when this function is called is to check what the material color is. If the material color is white, then we want to switch that over to red, and if it is in fact white, if it's red, then we want to switch back to white. So this function switch material color is going to be called to alternate the material color between red and white. So I'm going to type the line mesh renderer. If the mesh renderer is the material color is white, then we want to change it to red. So we can type mesh renderer, which is the type mesh renderer here, and I can type dot material. You can see here in the code completion it has a property called material, and I can then select the color, which is the color of the material, and if it equals the color white, notice that when I press the period symbol on color, we get a range of presets, color presets that we can select here. So I could select red or white or yellow. In my case, I'm selecting white, But we can also access the individual components of the colour as well, the red, green and blue components. But here I just want to select white, so I'm going to set this to white and we're checking. So here I want to, if it is white, I want to set this to the colour red. So I'm just going to copy this colour property and then set that to colour.red. But if it's not red, if it is red and not white, then we want to reverse and switch the colour back from red to white. So I'm going to type else, and here I'm just going to copy and paste this statement and switch it back to white. So if it is white, it switches to red, and if it's not, then it switches back to white. And I'm going to press Ctrl S on the keyboard to save that. Now if I call this function switch material color once in the start function, it will switch the material color to red, and we can test that here. I'm just going to minimize MonoDevelop, our code compiles, and I'm going to drag and drop the change material onto the plane object so that now this is a component of this object, and I'm going to press play on the toolbar. And when I do this, notice that straight away the material changes now from white to red. So this is a good beginning. We still need to code the alternating behavior over time.